Last night, we saw that a hurricane come ashore as a Category 4 around 11:20, just to the southwest of Perry, Florida, as you heard there, Taylor County. We're still seeing this system kind of moving at a rapid pace, so it's held itself together pretty good between now and landfall. We've still got winds at 70 miles per hour. It's cruising right along parts of the southeast, and for folks in the state of Florida and southern Georgia, we're going to slowly see some of these major improvements when it comes to the rainfall, when it comes to the winds as the system lifts to the north. But we've got a whole lot of rain to talk about, and we've got the potential for tornadoes today. So those are kind of just the couple of things that we're going to turn our attention to as far as the impacts go. When you look at those tornado watches, they're centered across parts of just a sliver of Georgia into South Carolina and parts of southern North Carolina as well. Those are going to go through at least 8 o'clock this morning. We've already seen some of those kind of ramping up as the morning has gone on with the tornado warnings, and those ingredients aren't going to change, especially with kind of the spin that you get with these systems. Notice how this is coming on shore, and this is where we're seeing some of those tornado warnings. But the rain has been quite impressive. Remember, before this storm even made landfall, we were seeing rain across this region. We've had multiple inches in some spots at 7 to 10 inches of rain, and numbers even higher than that, closer to 15, before this even got started. And in a short amount of time, so 12 to 24 hours receiving all of that rain, the grounds are just essentially saturated. And when you have some of this heavier rain already working through and moving over these saturated grounds, places like Augusta up into Charlotte, that's where we get these flash flood emergencies that are ongoing this morning. This is going to be something that we see specifically across the western portions of the Carolinas unfolding through the day today. Not to mention, we have something in meteorology called orographic lift. What is that? Sounds complicated. Basically, it's when you get a push of air going up in elevation on that side of the mountain, and it cools the air, and essentially it has to wring the atmosphere out. And you can see we've got plenty of moisture with this atmosphere to wring out. So that means more precipitation. That means more of these landslides, these mudslides on these grounds that just essentially can't handle it at this point. Not to mention any rivers, streams, creeks that are already very swollen and with water just essentially nowhere to go. Some of the heaviest rain right now, Greenville to Greenwood. You see Asheville getting in on this as well, out towards Charlotte, Columbia, seeing some of that rain as well. So no surprise that we've got a good chunk of this region under these flash flood warnings, but also a broader area for the flash flood watch. 34 million people. Many of these, again, flash flood emergencies, really dire situation. We will see likely rescues in these areas, washed out roads, et cetera, with this kind of situation continuing to unfold through the morning hours. And you can see the spots that we're watching, that western area of parts of the Carolinas, as well as western Tennessee, where we've got moderate risk and high risk kind of centered across this region. But really, you could see flooding all across that area. Again, just so much moisture for us to tap into, and anywhere from another 3 to 5 and even up to 6 inches of rain, of additional rain on what we've already received, is going to be problematic for folks. This is going to go for the river flooding probably into next week. We've seen impressive levels of the creeks and rivers so far, and more to come. There's the 70 mile per hour kind of a setup of what we've got right now. The system doesn't look great. It's weakening. Of course, it's interacting with the land. So that means that we're going to continue to see this thing kind of weaken through the day today. But all of those impacts really haven't changed. One thing to note, we'll slowly start to see the storm surge kind of improve in places like Tampa, of course, as the system gets farther away. But it's going to take a little while for that water to recede, especially if you still have those onshore winds with that water kind of still being pushed up against the coast. Of course, not as strong as it has been over the past 24 hours. But nonetheless, that's going to be something that we'll have to watch. There's the tornado watch that's going to stay in effect. And we do have that one warning just to the south and west of Myrtle Beach. We'll be seeing, again, this kind of setup all morning long with these bands kind of spinning on in. This is just essentially what you get when you have those outer bands working their way in. Easy for us to see some of those tornadoes popping up, and they potentially could be rain wrapped. That means that it's going to be fast moving and you're not going to be able to see it all that well. So that's why this is going to be a dangerous area too, from Norfolk out to Charlotte, down to Charleston, out towards the coast, Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, all included in this, Fayetteville as well. The winds, not as impressive as what they were, of course, when the system came ashore, and it was a Category 4. We were dealing with reports of 100+ mile per hour winds in places like Perry. So the damage there, even in places like Tallahassee, a little more than what we're going to see across Georgia, but still 67 mile per hour wind gusts recently in Macon. We've got Atlanta gusting to 60 miles per hour. So at the very least, we'll see still some down power lines, down trees. About 50 miles per hour is when we usually see power outages. And you can see this includes most of this region: Charlotte, Greenville, Augusta, out towards the coast. Of course, we'll be watching for that as well. Anywhere from 30 to 50 mile per hour winds for Knoxville. Louisville ends up about 40 to 60 miles per hour. And even Indianapolis will be gusting at tropical storm strength as this system continues to weaken. It is going to weaken, but the power outages, again, will be probably more isolated to scattered across that region as we get into the Ohio Valley. But they'll be out there with any of these winds happening. So this is going to be something that we watch, guys, through at least the next couple of hours, specifically as it weakens and as it works up that way. We'll be watching for the potential for more flooding, those tornadoes, and the winds. The good news is places like Tampa Bay, which saw record storm surge, those will start to see some improvements as the morning goes on, and we'll really get to see what that damage has in store for us here as the daylight hours come.
A big day. Angie, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.